I have to tell you, there's one thing that I'm so proud of and impressed with is the type of people that this movement is attracting. Dr. Torrie Thompson is known around the world as a functional medicine practitioner. She solves some of the toughest client cases, and her passion is help others, stemming from her own health struggles. For a decade, she visited over 20 doctors looking for a cause to all these strange symptoms she was having and solutions, and somebody to help her heal and get her life back. And after years of failed traditional medicine, and several incorrect diagnoses, she finally took her health in her own hands and discovered she had Lyme's disease, after some investigations. So, it's easy to miss stuff like that, but it's very frustrating when you're living through that and you're suffering and you're in pain. So she successfully used holistic medicine approaches that, include dietary modification, supplementation, lifestyle changes to help her finally regain her health. So that gave her the commitment to move forward with this as her own passion and her own purpose. Now she specializes in helping people find the root cause of their symptoms, that have stumped practitioners all over the world. And she helps people find answers to solutions with mold sicknesses, Lyme's disease, gut infections, autoimmune diseases, fibromyalgia, depression, anxiety, chronic fatigue, hormone imbalance, infertility, and so many more. When you have the ability to find these problems and find the root causes of the problems and look for the solutions, you can make a difference. Dr. Torrie knows that when toxins and infections are removed and a mindset is addressed, the body can then heal itself. And that's what we're going to talk about. This is an exciting interview. Hold on tight. You're going to enjoy it. And there she is, the great Dr. Torrie. How are you today, Torrie?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks. I'm glad you could join us today.
Glad to be here.
So we're going to start. We want to talk to you about your expertise. Right now, the world is kind of facing some health challenges. We've come out of a real rough 15 months. There's a lot of quarantines around the country, around the world, actually. A lot of people didn't have access to health, fitness, health care, and we're paying for it now. And so, just your professional opinion, how do you think the country fared on a whole coming out of a year of all the uncertainty?
I think as a whole, the country is starting to see the importance of health, because over the last year and a half, you had people that stopped working out. You had people that started eating horribly, drinking went up. Really, our whole lifestyle shifted for a lot of people. And I think they're starting to feel the effects of it. People joke about how much weight they gained. They joke about how lazy they are now. And now they're starting to see the effects of it. It affects your health, yes, in the scheme of if you get sick, you tend to get sicker if you're unhealthy. But they're also seeing that, their depression's up. You're seeing, energy down. We're seeing, even kids, we're seeing the effects of it. And so I would say, as a whole, it was really eye-opening to see how people let their healthy habits slide over the last 12, 15 months.
Yeah, that's an important word there, the habits. Like, we probably created a lot of unhealthy behaviors that now turned into habits, and we've got to figure out a way to undo that quickly.
Absolutely.
Would you classify that? Would you say this is just a health concern, or we're kind of got our own little epidemic going here?
I would really consider as a little epidemic, because you have things that I consider the foundation of health, the foundation of a really optimal life, went out the window. And so that's not an easy little tweak. That's not, I'm going to go to bed an hour earlier and my health's going to turn around. Changing your eating habits, your drinking habits, your mindset, that takes time. It takes dedication. And so having to shift that is it's a lot harder to get out of the habit than it is to change it and get into new habits.
Yeah, and one of your expertise is nutrition, like what we put into our bodies. And unfortunately, let's forget the pandemic. Before the pandemic, our society didn't really encourage healthy eating, healthy living. Food manufacturers make everything look great, taste great, and it's probably garbage that we're putting into our systems. And we don't have a whole lot of opportunity to learn more about it. Now with the pandemic, then we added in comfort eating to that mix. Does this mean that most Americans have elevated their health risks at this point?
I think what I've seen is people have kind of gone two ways. You have people that have elevated their health risks that ate horribly. And the beginning of the pandemic was really the example of this. You watch people that kind of looked at it like a vacation at first, right, and eating went out the window. And when you look at really any disease, it doesn't matter if it's COVID, you look at any disease that has serious health, repercussions. Diabetes, high blood pressure, lack of exercise, all raise your risk factor for that pathology to be worse on the body. And so you have people that let their health and their eating go, and it was bad and now it's really bad. But then you also have people that either got sick, watched somebody get really sick, and saw the writing on the wall and kind of turned the other way. And so I think we have a really big divide. You have people now that see how important healthy eating is, and that is truly the foundation of a healthy lifestyle. I always tell all of my patients, you can't out supplement, you can't out diet, you can't out supplement, you can't out sleep, you can't out anything if your diet is bad. That is the core of it, right? And so you have people that understand that, but then you have all other people that went the other way and are really in bad shape and need to completely overhaul their diet.
Yeah, and we noticed that too. Like a lot of the people on this call were invited in from the fitness industry, like the health club, the gym members. They had a lot of states just opening up this week too. I mean, some have been closed a year and a half. So just having access to that kind of exercise again, and so they let their exercise go. So naturally, you go, okay, well, I'm not exercising. I'm not going to worry about what I eat as much. And sometimes people exercise so they can eat more, and now you got both working against you. And the whole idea of I Choose Fitness is where we can make personal decisions to look better, feel better, move more, eat better, and have a positive mindset. Combine those three together, fitness, exercise, and nutrition, that will create optimal health. Absolutely. Is that kind of what you've been teaching all your clients all along anyway?
Oh, yes. I mean, I always tell them you can't have one of those without the other. It is not a one or two, pick one, pick two, and you can have this optimal lifestyle. You really have to balance all of them. And it's finding what works for them. I think within the industry, and recently I've heard a lot of, you're hearing people kick back up on diet, these different mainstream diets because of what, the last year people have gained weight. And it really always piques my interest because nobody talks about the mindset that people have. Nobody talks about the what type of exercise are you doing? And is that the most optimal exercise for that person's body? If you've been sedentary for the last 12 to 15 months, going out and, trying to run a half marathon is not the best option for them. And then all these different diets, it's really like trying to figure out the bio-individuality, right? So it's not the one size fits all approach, but I really, really believe that you have to have, diet, mindset, and fitness together to really live an optimal life. And then you get into a flow and a balance, and it's really not that hard to maintain. You enjoy it. And once you get into that flow and it's what your body likes, it's what your body is, really, optimized on, you don't have to go kill yourself every day and eat nothing, go kill yourself in the gym, and then, do this extensive mind work stuff or, mindset stuff. It doesn't have to be that hard.
Yeah, I love the way you're describing that too, because sometimes we don't start because it looks overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And if you're talking to somebody that they're not feeling good, they're out of shape, they're kind of getting depressed a little bit, they're frustrated by maybe they did put on that weight, they don't have the energy, they look at it like a big mountain to climb, and you say, no, it's just small steps.
Absolutely.
Move more, eat better, and, be positive. Things like gratitude, working on a couple gratitude things in the morning, set your day off in a really positive way.
Yeah, that is one of the most, I think people think it's so simple that it can't work. But it's the most simple little changes, if you do them over time, really make a profound difference. I mean, it's incredible. And I get to watch different people and I get to see the changes. And sometimes they don't see them in themselves. But if you just stick with something, it will make a difference. And I always tell people, those days are going by regardless of what you do. So either you make a positive change or you stay where you're at, but the days are going by. So if you can start with something small and make a little bit of a tweak every single day, you're heading in the right direction.
Not to mention the way you're describing that is, I'm going to pick up some good habits along the way because I'm doing something better every day. Absolutely. And then I turn around 30 days from now, I go, wow, I've come a long way. And you don't see the physical change right away, but the mental change is immediate. Absolutely. Like I talk about when our gyms opened back up in New Jersey and I started going again, I forgot it was almost a year, and I forgot what it feels like when you get in the car. When you're done, you're proud, you're excited, you got adrenaline pumping. And you described like somebody having all three work together, that optimizing their health. What does optimal health look like to you when you see it?
Oh man, optimal health to me, it radiates, right? You can see this person and they radiate, they're generally happy. And I think we get this misconception that once you're in this really healthy state, everything's perfect. And that is not true. But they're a more positive person. You see, they have healthy habits and you see a balance in their life. And so really like, I think we kind of have different stages of healing in my world. You really get someone to a baseline, and that's bringing them back from whatever they were overcoming, whether that's, they wanted to lose weight, reverse diabetes, whether they, whatever their symptoms were, you get them to a baseline. But then there's this fun little window, and that's the human optimization. And that's really like, what does an ideal diet look like for you? What does your ideal exercise look like for you? How much sleep do you need? What can we do to tweak that and make sure that you're feeling your best? And it's my favorite window because people think they feel good when they hit a baseline. But then when you get them into that optimization and they're waking up and they like jump out of bed, they don't need an alarm. They have energy throughout the entire day. They don't get bloated. They're, just more positive. They see the world through kind of rose-colored glasses. That is my favorite window because it changes someone's entire life.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, as you're saying, I'm picturing some things have happened to me since I started moving regularly again and working out. And obviously you instantly start to change what you're putting in your body too, because you're more concerned with yourself. But the alarm's gone for me now. And I wake up, my first thought of the day is I choose fitness, because we've been talking about it for so long now that I choose fitness as a commitment to myself. I'm going to move more. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to work on my attitude. If that's how I wake up, I just spring out of bed. I'm ready to go. I start thinking of all the things I look to do. There's times when we were in lockdown, I hit that snooze button a couple of times. Didn't feel, why would I want to get up? I wasn't feeling good. And there's a lot of people, unfortunately, stuck there too.
Absolutely.
And so we're interviewing now. I would have to classify, you're kind of a mixed breed here. Let's clarify that. We're interviewing people from the medical professional. That's you. Yep. But we're also interviewing people from the nutrition field and the food industry. That's you also. And then we're interviewing people whose forte is the mindset industry. And again, that's you. So you are a hybrid here. I want to drill down a little bit on each of those, if you don't mind. Nutrition. You said something about people's diet and people go on diets. What's the difference between diet and nutrition?
Diet to me, I look at it's restrictive. It is what you can't eat instead of what you can eat. And that's just my perception of it, right? I like to look at food as it's a lifestyle, right? And I'm a firm believer in there's no perfect quote unquote diet, whether you're talking about keto, whether you're talking about paleo, whether you're talking about vegan, vegetarian, carnivore. I believe that there's beautiful aspects of all of them. And within each one, for certain people, we'll find, okay, this is really good for you. What I really believe in is the core of it is no processed food. Eat fruits and vegetables and organic, and it as clean as you can. And then from there, you can figure out how to, how much carb do you do well with, or how much plants, or how much meat do you do well with. You can play from there, but the core of it is this lifestyle of clean. It comes from the earth, and it's minimally processed. So lifestyle to me is something it's sustainable. When people go on these crash diets, whether it's really hardcore keto, and that tends to be one of the bigger ones we're hearing about right now, or any of them, it's very, very restrictive. So what tends to happen is people will go on it to lose weight or whatever their goal is. And then it's so restrictive that once they hit that, they bounce back, right? All they want is what they couldn't have. And so I really am a big believer in there's no crash diets. It's figuring out how to eat clean for you. And then when I first changed my diet, it was a lot of years ago, what I really, really focused on was at events where there would be, say, like birthday cake or something like that, a holiday, I would find a way to make it a healthy version, and it usually fell into the paleo category. So I never felt restricted. That to me is really a way to stay on a healthy lifestyle because you never feel like you're missing out on things. But it's really, again, there is no perfect way of eating for anyone. And I think that is one of the biggest points to drive home is that if keto worked for 99 people, you might be the 100th person it doesn't work for. And that's okay. That's just your body not, wanting something different.
Right. Well, that's actually a relief, because the restrictions are what chase people away. And like you said, all you're thinking about is what you can't have. Mm-hmm. And I know that years ago, I put on a lot of weight. My metabolism seemed to just shut off. And I don't know if that's really the case, but it really felt like I was eating almost nothing and still gaining weight. And I gained and gained and gained. And I didn't know what to do about it. And I felt like garbage over it. And I'm like, my body has changed. I got to figure out how to fix this. And I start looking at all the different options there. And whatever one I tried, I was only thinking about what I wasn't getting. So
absolutely. And I think what you just said is a really good point of people think that calorie restriction is what you have to do. And that is the furthest from the truth. Yes, you can't eat 8,000 calories a day, but when you eat a lot of vegetables, you eat a lot of really dense things, you'll eat more. Mm-hmm. But it's what, it's healthy. It's not processed. And so I see a lot of people and they'll come to me and they want to lose weight. And then I tell them they can eat X, Y, and Z, and their eyes get really big. And they're like, well, that's going to make me gain weight. And it's this whole misconception that we've been taught that to lose weight, you have to restrict your calories. And that is just not true.
Well, do you have any, like a list, don't eat these lists, like these are danger foods, watch out for them? Like I hear a lot of people talk about, like sugar creates inflammation. Inflammation, absolutely, we know is the core of all diseases. Is that on, do you have a list like that?
Yeah, my biggies, I'm fairly strict on especially my clientele, they're usually very, very sick. So we have to get very, very tight with what they eat because we want foods that are going to lower inflammation, not add to it. So I always tell them, you have a fire lit. And when we have these foods that are pro-inflammatory, causing inflammation in the body, it's like gasoline to that fire. So we're going to pull those. So my absolute no's that I won't touch, and I get my patients and clients to stay away from, is gluten, dairy, sugar. Those are like the absolute no-nos. From there, it can get, I don't do soy, I don't do corn, but gluten, dairy, and sugar, really, really inflammatory. And one thing that they'll do is they'll cut out gluten for a little bit and they won't notice anything. Like they'll cut it out for say 30 days. What's interesting is gluten and all of these, they're inflammatory. They can mess with your gut. And that's usually what people are looking for. Oh, I pulled it out. I didn't feel any different. And then they put it back in. But what we know is we get inflammation we can have inflammation to the brain. So brain fog, depression, anxiety, difficulty remembering things, waking up groggy, that can be these foods. It can be, skin issues. People always think skin issues, oh, I just have acne or, whatever. Sugar and gluten and dairy are huge drivers of skin issues. So those are my big no-nos. And I don't do them at all. Absolute no for me.
And especially, you said a lot of your patients are really sick and you're trying to bring them out of that. So that's the first thing you want them to remove so they can start to, I'm going to use the word reverse, but can you reverse illnesses by changing your nutrition?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really so the way that I work is a little bit different. I don't like diagnoses that people come with because they're labels. And the second someone has a label, their mind latches onto it, right? And we all do this thing where we go on Dr. Google and we Google it.
Dr. Google, yep.
Yep, we hit Dr. Google and your mind just goes to all these places. There's forums that you'll read things on. It is the worst thing that I believe people can do. So what I like to do is I always like to look for root causes of why someone would be having these symptoms. Your body doesn't just wake up one day and go, you know what? I'm going to have type 2 diabetes. Just doesn't do that, right? Our bodies have these miraculous units. And so when you get to these pathologies or you get to these, quote unquote diseases, there is all these cracks in the foundation that have happened before that. And so what I like to do is find out why, dig into that and figure out why is that there? Is it that, with type 2 diabetes, a perfect example is what does their diet look like? That's generally step number one. But you can even go steps deeper. There's toxins that are in our products, in our water, in like gasoline and all sorts of these environmental toxins that will actually go in and attack the pancreas. And so then you'll start seeing where people will get type 2 diabetes And it's not a food issue, it's a toxin issue. And so looking for these deep root causes allows you to go, okay, we have X, Y, and Z in the body that doesn't belong. Let's remove that, put, of course, a healthy diet in there, and you'll watch these uncurable diseases that people have been labeled as go away so fast, because when you pull out what doesn't belong, I'm a big believer in the body can heal itself. It doesn't need me. It doesn't, right. I don't do anything. I'm just helping the client guide, into what needs to be removed. And so it's looking at different angles. Toxins are a huge problem for a lot of people. Most people have no idea that their water is loaded with toxins, that their makeup is loaded with toxins, the cleaning products that they're using. These are all endocrine disruptors. They're all hormone disruptors. They cause us to hold on to weight. They cause all these issues. And so it's looking and figuring out what doesn't belong and let's get it out. So I believe pretty much everything is either reversible, and if not reversible, stoppable from going any further.
Just arrest it where it is once we diagnose it. Yeah, we interviewed Nathan Crane. He just released a documentary on cancer, and he said, cancers come from 6 different places, and he started naming them. And to me, it was mind-boggling that it really is this simple. It's what you put in your body and on your body that creates cancer.
Absolutely.
And you started mentioning things like the makeup and the waters that we're drinking, and the creams and the lotions and the things we put onto our skin, and then we go out in the sun and we cook it into our system.
Yep.
And then wonder why all of a sudden cancer rates are at an all-time high.
Absolutely. It's to me, it's infuriating and frustrating, the things that are in our products, because there's study after study after study on the dangers of these chemicals that are in things that we use every single day. And so it's like plastics and water, things that should be safe for us, have all sorts of chemicals that are cancer causing, that are hormone disrupting, that are inflammatory, that are toxic, that we really like. We're starting to see the changes, right? You're starting to see products that are, BPA free or phthalate free and sulfate free, but it's just the beginning of it. And so opening people's eyes to what they're putting in their body, not only from food, but from a product standpoint, is one of the biggest first steps that someone could take.
Yeah, and this is even this conversation is just bringing back to the day I was waiting for Nathan to join the call. I get an alert in the bottom right corner of my computer, pops up, J&J just recalled 5 of their sunscreens that day. This was not even a week ago. And I'm waiting for the guy who just released a documentary on cancer to get on the call. Obviously, we're going to talk about, did you hear this? And he wasn't even aware. It just had happened that time. But he right away said, yes, Bob, that's it. It's what we're putting on our bodies, in our bodies. And then we're cooking it into our systems and wondering, where's all this coming from?
Absolutely.
And the fight that we have to fight too is we want 3 industries to work together, like the medical industry, the fitness industry, nutrition industry, and food industry. Can they come together? Do you ever see the day where they can actually work in unison for health?
I like to think yes.
Okay.
I like to be optimistic. I don't know in my lifetime we'll see that. I like to think so, but the one thing I think that's amazing is that we're seeing more and more products coming to market that are clean. When I first started this journey, it was about 15, 20 years ago. There wasn't the products that we had now. You either had to make it, or the products were terrible, the ones that were out there. And so now we're seeing substitutes that are easy. So it's not that someone had to go from using a normal deodorant to this, one that people call like hippie deodorants because they didn't really work.
Right.
Now you're seeing really, really easy shifts. So we might not see these industries working together, but what you're seeing is new products come to market, which to me is huge, because the bigger companies are starting to open their eyes. You're starting to see these bigger companies go, oh, this health industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. These people want this. I saw on TV the other day that Dove had a aluminum-free deodorant. That's huge. Still has other chemicals in it, but to have this big brand go aluminum-free because of all of us health people saying that aluminum is highly problematic is huge. So maybe one day, maybe we will see it. I hope.
You think the driving force that's preventing that right now is the almighty dollar in most cases?
I would say so.
Yeah, I mean, these are billion-dollar corporations we're talking about there, and even just the size of them to make these kinds of shifts is really difficult.
Yeah.
Like if we give up Dr. Google and start to go to Dr. Torrie, we still have to go find the solutions, right?
Absolutely.
So now people like you steer people at healthy alternatives and supplements, nutrition. Like, how does that work?
Absolutely. Yeah. What I like to do is I don't believe that there's really a one size fits all approach in any of it. And so I like to really, I dive into labs. I do a ton of lab testing to figure out exactly what's going on in the body. I can make very educated guesses and I'm usually right, but I like to see it on paper. And then from there, we can figure out what areas of their life needed to be tweaked. So if somebody's really high in environmental toxins, we can go through and go, look at, you have all of these, where are they coming from? And then they can dive into their own products and figure out, okay, I'm getting this benzene or phthalate or whatever it is from these hidden sources. So I do a lot of labs. And then from there, it's using supplementation, using supplementation to help guide a process. I think in the industry right now, we're seeing a lot of supplements being used as kind of like a prescription, right? We're going away from this allopathic model, but it's kind of going back to the allopathic model. And so it's using supplementation to help get things out of the body. And then you can tweak it, and every, maintenance, there's certain supplements that I take because you can't get them from the food we have now, but it's not using a supplement as an ill, a pill for an ill. It's using it to drive detox and then being done with it. And I think that's a very important point that people will see. People Google supplements for diabetes. Well, they'll take these supplements that they do work really, really well, but they didn't change their diet. So it's short term, and it's truly no different than a medication in the mindset of it.
Yeah, I think I get that too. I had I saw in your bio you dealt with Lyme's disease, which actually kicked off your career, misdiagnosed. Mine was misdiagnosed, but it was only a month.
Oh, wow.
And then when I wasn't getting, I had 105 fever and it was really bad. But when I went for the treatment, they gave me, I guess one of the strongest antibiotics. And so they prescribed the medication right away. In this case, I needed that. I had to have that. But a holistic doctor said to me when I was all done, I was telling him what I just went through. He said, are you taking probiotics? I said, no. Why? He goes, you've depleted your immune system. There's nothing left in it. You took the strongest possible chemical to wipe your immune system out. You've got none left. You got to go on probiotics. You got to start building back up. And he called it gut health. And I'm hearing this for the first time. My mind was blown, but this is your everyday world, right? This is how you understand how the body works and what it needs.
Absolutely. And it's really, I always say, like, the allopathic medical model, they don't know what they don't know. They are not taught that. So it's not that they're sitting around going like, how can we destroy someone's health? That is absolutely not it. That medicine is phenomenal. You need emergency care. You need, something really, really big. You need surgery. You need something in the realm that the holistic world can't handle. I am a huge believer in it. Had this conversation yesterday with someone that's son had to have, when he was born, had to have 2 open heart surgeries. That's where allopathic medicine thrives. You need your life saved? Absolutely. But there are we aren't taught in school. And I came from a holistic background, but that, medical doctors, they're not taught that you need a probiotic if you put someone on antibiotics. They aren't taught, hey, maybe let's make sure their inflammation from food is low while we're dealing with Lyme, because that's a highly inflammatory process. So it's just really educating. I always tell people, educate yourselves, be your own advocate for your health. And that was, if I didn't do that when I was sick, because it took me about 10 years to get a diagnosis, they would have done exploratory brain surgery on me. They would have put me on countless medications. They would have done all these things because they couldn't figure it out. And no one ever talked about diet. No one ever talked about supplements to help lower inflammation. And so it's just really being your own advocate for your health and doing your research. Don't take what anyone says as the only way to do it. There's lots of ways to do it. So yes, I think, with it, we all have a lot to learn. And so it's cool seeing the allopathic model starting to catch on, starting to hear about, them putting on people on probiotics, them, doing these, what we would consider, a little bit more mainstream, but for them, it's a huge step in the right direction.
Now, what about during it? Like, people that are going through chemo right now, should they be working on their probiotics and their immune systems simultaneously?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's, whenever you're going through any treatment that is hard on the body, why not support it? Right. And so we know that the gut is just this amazing kind of brain number two, if you will. I mean, our brain and our gut are constantly in communication with each other. And so really, you cannot have a healthy body if you don't have a healthy gut. You can't, because of your immune system and all of the things that happen in the gut, all the biochemistry. If your gut is not in good shape, your body is going to follow, and so is your brain. So really, if I look at someone that's going through chemo, they're going through, radiation, they're anything in that realm, eating clean, number one, absolutely, eat clean, low sugar, lots and lots of vegetables, but then supplements to drive lowering the inflammation and supporting your gut. You don't need to go through big detoxes or anything like that, but just get on supplements like omegas and turmeric and glutathione, these different supplements that are going to help lower your inflammation and allow your body to function better. The more we can get the body to function, the better it will be at killing or reversing any disease and pathology.
Yeah, and I was almost tempted to open up Google and throw in what we do. Like you said, we run a Dr. Google, but we do. You said be an advocate for yourself, find out for yourself, research for yourself. We don't know any better. We go to Google and we type in a symptom. I have headaches, and up comes everything that can cause a headache that has nothing to do with what we're talking about right here. Yep. Like gut health is probably on page 3, and I don't think a human being has ever gone to page 3 on Google, right? We stop at 2.
Yeah, you stop, you go to, WebMD and you see brain tumor, and then everyone's mind is,
right,
out in the cosmos of all these crazy things. And I'm guilty of this too. When I was younger, I remember my weird symptoms. I'd be like, well, I either have about a week left to live or I have not drank enough water today. It's just one of those things. And so it's really like doing your own research and knowing where to go. That is the hardest thing, is like, you sometimes have to put in, like, you can't just put in headache, putting in natural headache causes or things, using keywords in Google, because Google is a great source of information if you know where to go.
Yeah, and know when you're there if it's right. Like, do you have advice on that? Like, how would somebody that's watching and say, I need to find out more about some of these ailments? What's a safe way to search for information, whether you use Google or not? Like, what would you say there?
I usually will look up like holistic or functional medicine. And really my biggest thing is work with someone that knows what they're doing. Because what we do is we can decipher information really well. If you tell me you have X, Y, and Z symptoms, listening to you talk, I can go, okay, well, you just told me that you have really bad headaches, but you drink, you don't drink a water bottle a day. You're drinking nothing. You only drink diet soda. Well, I can now decipher that you probably are just dehydrated and that's why you're getting headaches. So I always tell people, yes, be your own advocate and work with someone if it's something that you're concerned about, because we can really go, oh, you know what you need is just to drink some more water and eat some more vegetables. And other times we'll be like, no, let's do some lab testing. So really work with someone that knows the body, that understands it. And anything in the functional medicine, holistic, alternative realm tends to be a good place to start.
And now this alternative medicine that we're talking about and describing right here, this is brand new. It only came out like 3 years ago, right?
Oh yeah, totally. No, it has been around forever. And so the beautiful thing is a lot of this is, taken from Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine. It's these ancient practices that we have brought together. So we use a lot of herbs, we use a lot of, vitamins and supplements. And in a perfect world, we wouldn't need all the supplements that we have because they would have come from the ground and the food. Farming and all of that has changed. So now we have a huge, amounts of supplements you can get, but between herbs, supplements, it's ancient practices.
This is just for your opinion, because I'm curious. GMO, organic food, like when we're shopping for these natural foods you want, is there anything that you have, any feelings you have towards either of those?
I'm 100% organic, I will tell you that, because I see in people's labs what pesticides do to them. So when you look at things like glyphosate is the infamous Roundup chemical, but it's used heavily on foods like chickpeas, wheat, corn, sweet potatoes, beets, and they use it to ripen them. They use it for tons of reasons, but it's on the non-organic versions. Glyphosate is an interesting chemical because what it does is it's a neurotoxin, toxic to the brain. We know it causes cancer, but what really piques my interest is glyphosate takes out the healthy flora and it makes it a very hostile environment. So your healthy gut flora can't survive. So when your healthy gut flora can't survive, it's really, really easy for bacteria, bad bacteria to overgrow, fungus to overgrow, parasites to take over. And so you're really setting yourself up for what we call gut dysbiosis or gut imbalance. And it's stemmed from a chemical. And so it's really like when you understand how these pesticides, how these chemicals affect the body, I don't touch them. I recommend if you eat the outside of it, so like a berry, an apple, it needs to be organic. For people that are budgeting, if you don't eat the outside of it, it's not as big of a deal. And then things like meats, 100% organic. I actually really like, I'm in Texas, so we have big farms here. So I, will order my meat from a farm that I know where the animals were, grass fed and all that. But organic when people can, it's really important. We see with our animals, they pump them with hormones. Then we're starting to see all these hormone imbalances in people, even in young kids. It comes from the animal. So, the saying is you are what you eat, but I believe also you are what you eat eats. So remembering what that animal ate, what that animal or plant was injected with, you also get.
Right. And they do feed some of these animals things to fatten them up because then they can obviously make more sales at the end.
My one of my family members, he is in the dairy industry, and it was a few years ago, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. We were around for Thanksgiving. Everyone was eating, and we got talking about it. And he said, you guys won't believe what we fed the cows after Halloween. And he goes, we bought up all of the Halloween candy and gave it to the cows. And he was like, I couldn't believe it. And so you had all these cows. So now you have all these cows that ate a purely sugar diet. I don't think anywhere in nature a cow is going to be eating, a Twix bar, but it was. So it's interesting. It's remembering what are they feeding the animals that you're eating, because you indirectly are getting it. Right.
What a great point. And I don't know if I've ever even heard that conversation going one layer deep. You're what you eat eats. Mm-hmm. And sometimes too, that supports the folks that just want to be 100% vegetarian, so they don't have to think about anything past what comes out of the ground,
Absolutely.
And GMOs, there any thoughts on that, or is that kind of new?
I stay far away from GMOs too. There's research on that GMO foods, and there's so many types of genetically modified foods. It's really like, what type is it? But some of them they can spray a ton of pesticides on. Others can open up, they're meant to cause the insects' stomachs essentially to explode if the insects eat them. So it will cause leaky gut in humans. There's no good, for me, I have not seen any convincing research that would point me in the direction of going towards genetically modified food. I also just don't believe in modifying, I don't believe in taking things and tweaking it to grow faster, to grow bigger. I don't believe that can be good for us.
Right. Yeah. I mean, common sense tells us that just doesn't make sense. And it is a little scary when you just start to think of the whole process. But in the store, when you see a label organic stamped on a food, you just think it's better. I mean, cereals do that too. They'll put some labels on their cereals, and then you look at the ingredients, it's like 75% sugar, but they have this heart health stamp on the side. I know, Cheerios has got a big heart on it. We, heart health, we promote it. What does that mean? Like what? So do you have any courses on reading labels before we go shopping?
My motto with reading a label is if you can't pronounce it, do not put it in your body. And that will carry people so far. If you can't pronounce an ingredient, do not touch it. I do not like my body to be a science experiment. And that's what a lot of this stuff is. And what's really frustrating is every year there'll be these buzzwords, right? Like gluten was one, or
Right.
MSG, monosodium glutamate. What is really frustrating about the food industry is they'll change the name of things. And so it's really like you can look for these big things, but you're not going to see gluten on a label. You're going to see, wheat, or you're going to see sometimes natural flavors, or you're going to see these different buzzwords. So I always say if it has more than 5 ingredients, no. If you can't pronounce any of them, no. And if it has things in there that do not look like, you'll see these like diethyl da 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 da, mono da da da. That to me looks like lab. And so don't touch it. And so I always tell people, shop the outside, right? Shop the outside of the grocery store, fruits and vegetables and meats and all of that. There's not much that needs to be purchased on the aisles of a grocery store, in my opinion.
I heard that too. And I repeated that during one of these interviews. And I said, I've heard it. You just shop the outside of the store, you'll be healthier. And the guy I said it to owns a company called Active Wellness. So he's really tuned in. He goes, that's a great one, Bob, except my bakery is on the outside. He goes, I keep stopping there and spending way too much time there.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of one of those, like, it's a good rule of thumb until you hit like the bakery and bread section. But then again, if you read the ingredients, it would be more than 5 and there would be some crazy things in there. So usually it's easy to stay away from.
So helpful, Torrie. So helpful that just getting that kind of understanding when you go shopping, because what you bring home is what you're going to consume. Yeah. And if you're bringing home garbage, guess what? Like, I haven't had any chocolate chip cookies this week. You know why? I don't have any chocolate chip cookies at home. So yeah, I mean, it is kind of that simple when we try and make these little subtle changes. Now, as far as all this, you start working on also, it can be overwhelming. So how do you keep your mindset in check during this process of making these little changes? Like, how do you stay positive, excited?
It's baby steps. It really is. It can be extremely overwhelming when people are like, I need to change every single thing about my lifestyle. No, do not do that. Some people can. Most people cannot. It's baby steps, right? It's starting small and making changes. And then I think that one of the most, and we touched on it a little bit ago, one of the most underutilized tools is gratitude. And I always tell people, really, you create your own reality of this world, right? So if you're a super negative person, that's your reality. I'm a super, super positive person by nature, and I've done a ton of mindset work. I see the world like, my friends always joke, I see the world as like rainbows and unicorns, because that's how my internal reality is. I do a ton of gratitude journaling. I choose to see the good, not the bad. And so one day, there was a day about a month ago that it was just kind of a crazy day. I was in a super, super negative mood, which is not like me. And what's interesting is I went to the grocery store and I saw rude people. I was in the parking lot and people were honking at me. And it was interesting. It was the biggest eye-opening experience because I don't see that normally. And so it was really like my negative mindset that day. That's what I was bringing in, was all this negative energy. And so I then really got back to my gratitude journal. So every day when I wake up, I write 10 things that I am grateful for. And some days it is so easy, right? I could write 500 things I'm grateful for. Some days it's not. Some days it's like, you just wake up and there's a lot going on and you're stressed and you've got 20 things to do. I do that every single day. I also do I do breath work every day. They're really, really short. And that allows my nervous system to calm down. And so I can start my day on a positive, calm note. And then at night, gratitude journal again. I journal kind of whatever's on my mind, and then I will always end it with what I'm thankful for. And something that was a game changer in my healing that I think we forget is that I would go to bed and, you don't ever, and this is going to sound kind of out there, but I didn't ever like thank my body for what it was doing for me. And so every night when I go to bed, I will literally in my head thank my body for whatever it did that day. Whether we ran 10 miles or we worked with 20 clients or whatever it is, I thank my body for that. It's just another form of gratitude.
Yes. And
so if you can really make those subtle changes and get into the gratitude, get into this space of being grateful and really it brings you to a more optimistic state. And it's not that everything is always perfect. That is not the truth. But what it does is it allows you to react better to things when they're not perfect and to see the good in it. I believe there's a lesson in everything. Even the things that I'm like, oh, that was awful. There's a lesson, there's something that came out of it. And so starting with gratitude. Another thing that is huge is having community around you. We were in this last 12 months where a lot of people isolated. Having community and having people around you that you can laugh with, you can enjoy food with, you can, whatever it may be, whatever, sits well with you, having like-minded people is like the most invaluable thing ever. It's just, if you can get out and socialize, especially if you're around people that are making similar choices, it makes life a lot easier.
Those are great points, great takeaways. And I think as we're bringing all this I Choose Fitness to the next level, we want to incorporate challenges that people do to make these incremental improvements that you're talking about. And your idea is brilliant. I'm going to steal it and act like it's my own. So when you see it, go, oh, I think I heard of that. The gratitude journal, like if one of our challenges is get everybody to, for 30 days, just write down 3 things you're grateful for. Like just even simplify what you've been doing. At the end of 30 days, I can promise everybody, 100% of the people, you're going to feel better. Absolutely. And you're not going to see the rude people, right? Like
absolutely. It changes, it opens your awareness that you start to see things as opportunity. And so you start to see anything as an opportunity. Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that I missed that flight because I met da-da-da. You start to see everything as an opportunity. And when you shift that perspective into a place of always being grateful instead of always being mad or pessimistic, I guarantee you it will change your life.
And we need this more now than ever. I mean, just everything you brought to the table today is just going to help everybody look better, feel better. But the gratitude is something that can make it last forever. Like that's like the linchpin that we pull all this together, and like the whole I Choose Fitness works because of all of that. This has been a lot of fun. You're brilliant, you know that, right?
Thank you.
You have the ability to simplify it to where we all understand. I can do that. It's not overwhelming. It's not scary. And a lot of it is common sense. I mean, some of it I'm learning for the first time, but the rest of it is really common sense, but nobody takes the time to tell it to us.
Exactly. It's sometimes simplifying things that everybody knows and just reminding them, hey, this is a great place to start, and breaking it down. And when people, if you have these really big concepts, I don't think anyone will argue with you that eating healthy is a great thing. I don't think there's a person out there that will argue that. But a lot of people have no idea where to start. And so if you can give a bite, bite size, after a few months, you're like, oh my goodness, I haven't had sugar in 3 months. And I haven't had, I've only eaten, protein and vegetables for the last few months. It's those baby steps that really change it. And when you make those slow changes, that's a lasting change rather than, oh, I'm just going to do this overnight. I hate it. I'm not, and then that you're never going to sustain that. So it's those slow changes over time that are really the changes that will change anyone's life.
All right, let's talk to the person that's listening to you right now that, and I'd say probably a good percentage of the audience is saying they're the type that they've been down the show before, they've tried and failed, they've given it their all, good intentions, but it didn't work out. And they're going, oh, this is just another one of those, try it and I'm going to get disappointed. And they have that mindset. Unfortunately, it's been put into them for over and over and over. What would you say to that person that is on the fence there? They want to do something, but they don't want to fail again.
I would say try again. I mean, I don't think anything good came from that one attempt and a fail. And then we're like, you know what? I don't think so. You look at like Elon Musk, and whether you like him or not, that man, you look at all of his failures. He's always a reminder for me. All of his failures led him to where he's at. And so it's really, you don't have to be perfect. There is no perfect, and use all of your failures as lessons to go, oh, you know what? That didn't work. So this time I'm going to try it a little bit differently. I'm going to, make small changes instead of trying to, go to the gym 7 days a week and kill myself in there. So use your failures as lessons, and you can do anything you set your mind to. It's just finding the way that works for you. That's the key. That's where the magic is. Find a way that works for you. It might look different than your brother or your sister or your friend, But if it works for you, that's all that matters.
That's awesome. And the small incremental improvements will lead to exponential growth, right? Personally,
Absolutely.
mentally. So phenomenal. Now, give me your final thoughts on what would the world look like if we moved health and fitness to the top of our priority lists?
The world would be a very different place in the last 12 months. If, health and fitness and really that whole mindset was everyone's top priority, we wouldn't be afraid of a virus. We would be, we would see hospitalizations down. We would see, longevity on the rise. It would be a healthier, happier place. I believe that, if you have your health, that's really how we see people that are happier, living longer, energized. I think the world would be an incredible place. And I think we're getting there. We're starting to see more and more people putting that as a top priority. Because if you don't have your health, you really have nothing. And I think from people, anyone that's listening that has lost their health, that. As someone that lost my health, I will tell you, I will do anything to stay healthy. And so I think it's once you've lost that health, that sense of really being healthy, you understand just how important it is. And so I think if we can get the world to where everyone puts that as their number one, it will just be a much happier, I almost want to say utopian place, because I think it would just be amazing, but I don't want to say utopia because it sounds so fake. I think we're getting there.
Right. We're pointing in the right direction. And I think you said it too, coming out of this pandemic raised awareness on a lot of areas that we really all are looking at for the first time, or with better eyesight. So in your world, I ask everybody to choose fitness. Why do you choose fitness? What's your answer to that? I choose fitness because of what?
I choose fitness so that I can live my best version of my life. And so when I am exercising, when I am working on mindset, when I'm eating clean, I'm able to do everything I want. I'm able to show up for my clients and my patients. I'm able to be the best version of myself. And as someone that has lost their health and lost everything because of, not eating well and all of that, it's something that for me is my top priority. And so I see it as my top priority, and I get the honor of helping others, but it's just, for me, it's truly a way of life. Like it's something that I don't even choose it anymore. It's just, that is how I live my life.
That's fantastic. Well, folks, we got to hear from the great Torrie Thompson, and on top of my priority list, my gratitude list tonight is that I got a chance to interview you for this, and welcome to the team.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. We're going to put some contact information on the bottom of your screen there, so they'll have a link. They can download any reports you want to share, and over time you can add to it too. So I'd encourage people to check back often and see what else is there.
Awesome.
Any closing thoughts? Anything I forgot to ask you about today?
I don't think so. I think that was an amazing conversation.
I appreciate it too. We'll catch up to you on the next one.
Awesome.
And for right now, let everybody come back and check out your page for any future updates.
Beautiful.
Thanks, Torrie.
Thank you.